G'day everyone, we're here in Brisbane talking to Lionel Riesenweber regarding the fisheries reform. Lionel, the first question to you is, how do you think this so-called fisheries reform is going?
No, honestly, I think it's going terrible. It's got nothing to do with the reform. It's got to do with other agendas. It's just we're just the poor people stuck at the end of it and going to get dealt a raw hand.
Okay, so we've seen a lot of media in the last couple of days and last couple of weeks, to be honest, around what quota management might mean. What has quota management meant for you and your business in broad terms? I don't want specifics about your business, but just in broad terms, how's it impacted you?
Oh, it's going to impact me significantly with the reducing the catch, because I'll see a reduction between my annual catches and what my quota allocation is between 40 and 45%. So that, on its own, and then I'm on a capped income. I can only catch so much per year unless I lease in more quota, which you have to work out financially whether it's worthwhile, because there's only X amount of quota around, so the people that have the quota to lease, the investors, whatever, they'll be able to hold you at ransom or basically have you as an employee. So it's going to suffocate small business, the micro businesses that most of the fishing industry in Queensland are.
Sure, so in your operation, are you purely catching crab, or have you diversified into net or the line fisheries, for example?
No, just crab. Years ago they didn't want diversity, they wanted you to concentrate on one thing. So we focused on crabbing, and that's all. Stopped net fishing years ago and line fishing. For me, I just focused on crabbing. So yeah, the reforms are going to decimate my ability to earn a comfortable income.
Yeah, okay. And part of the process was what they called, or what the department called, correct me if I'm wrong here, draft quota allocations to each person with an allocation depending on which fishery you're in.
Mm-hmm.
As a percentage, how big was the hit that you took from that allocation process?
As I said before, it would be 40 to 50%. If you go on my average catch history for the last 6-7 years to what the allocation is, it's basically nearly 50%.
How did they justify the reduction, or have they justified the reduction to you?
Well, they haven't. They don't. This is what's going to happen. They can spindle any figures they like to justify their reasoning, but at the end of the day, they're just going to cut people's incomes by half, 40, 30%, whatever it may be. And they don't really have to justify it, and if they do justify it, it's done with figures that are set up by them to make it sound however they want it to.
Okay, right. So no justification for the amount you've just lost that income. So as we progress with this, what's your expectation with the number of fishermen in the fishery? Do you think there'll be a lot of exits come
That's
September?
why we'll lose 50% of all commercial fishing businesses. Quite easy, I think.
Okay.
Between people that just can't afford to stay in the industry, to the people that are going to retire, it's just the way it's going to go. It'll basically, going to this system will basically nearly effectively stop commercial fishing in Queensland. It'll reduce it that much. Then it'll become too dear for the local consumers. Then you have to chase your high prices to make everything you're doing more sustainable in an income point of view. So you have to change everything you do, and your marketing your product and everything. So it's going to have massive effects.
That was one of the issues that was brought up in not just the QSIA submissions, but others around modelling of the impacts. From what I've heard, there's been no modelling of any impacts at your level, which is the catch sector and post-harvest sector. So there's been a little bit of kickback in the media around and hype around increases in prices. But if you're saying that you think there's going to be less available supply into the market and demand stays where it is there a possibility that prices will go up?
The prices get bandied around all the time. I'd love to get. You factor into everything. They say, even at say $50 a kilo, and you're selling interstate to Sydney market, you've got to take in your freight cost, you have to take in your commissions that you have to sell, pay them. So that $50 a kilo comes down pretty quickly to $40 a kilo. And then when the prices are high, it means supply is low. So it means you're not catching as much. So you need those high prices just to survive. So if you take an average over the whole year, and then those prices come from, usually are dictated by Sydney fish market, so then you take into the fact of your costings. As I said, your freight, your boxes to send it, because it has to be airline approved boxes. Then you have your commissions that they charge. So if you factor in those costs straight after the average they give you, it's not as good as what people think.
Yeah, and that's over and above the cost of you just getting out there and being able to operate.
That's just to sell the product, not to catch the product, just to sell the product.
Yep. And for those watching the video, what kind of other costs do you have just to get out and fish, for those that aren't aware?
Alright, you've got straight away fuel, your boat, whether it be purchasing or maintaining it, oil if it's required, servicing, bait, you have VMS cost, you have license fees, we're going to have new AMSA fees on our boats, gear, replacement of gear, power for your freezers and everything else, tolls if required. It just, list never ends. That's just to run your business, not your household expenditure, just your business expenses.
Okay, well, looks like there's going to be more to the story around quota, and following up from the recent Courier Mail articles around what's going on with quota management. There'll be more to discuss. So for the benefit of those watching the video, thanks very much. We've been talking to Lionel Riesenweber, mate. Thank you for your time.
Cheers.